What's up? I'm John. This is my 1981 Firebird. I bought this car in high school for $2,000. Let me tell you a little bit about it. All right, so when I was in high school, my favorite car was the GTO Judge. I knew I couldn't afford a Judge, but I really wanted to try to get at least a GTO. So with $2,000 back in that day, that was not going to get me a GTO. I found a good example, but that car was going for about $4,000. I only had two. So we head out way out of town. We went looking for at a couple of lots that I had been to before, and I saw this thing sitting in the front of this lot on a highway road, and it had a big blue boat flake paint job on it. It looked like an 80s speedboat basically, and it didn't run very well. So they wanted $3,500 for the car, and I told them that if it ran fine, I'd give you that much money. But it didn't. So we came back a day later. They got the car started and running fairly good, but it still wanted to die when it was in gear at an idle. So we paid $2,000 and we limped it all the way home. After driving the car around a little bit, we figured out that it had an old points ignition in it and that the electrical system on this car is a little too hot to run points. So I got an MSD ignition system, swapped that out, and she ran great. Not perfect, but it ran great. So eventually I found, I was staring at the engine, at the old 305 in there, and I noticed that the PCV system on a 305 is supposed to be backwards from a 350. And what I was looking at is my PCV system set up just like a 350. I would have thought that all small block Chevys would have the same crankcase ventilation, but apparently when I swapped the flow, the engine just started running pretty much perfect. I drove the car for years like this. It was my daily driver. It wasn't nothing special, but I've always just loved this car. So eventually I decided that I was gonna restore it, but I didn't have an engine. So I saved up a bunch of money and I ended up having my daily driver die on me. So I had to spend that money on a 96 Firebird, kicks this guy way back in the dust, and eventually I had a truck that got wrecked and I got a payout from that truck. I decided to buy a big 383 stroker with a nice fat cam in it. He only charged me $5,000. Now this was a brand new engine. It still had the break-in oil in it, and we put that in this car. I bought a 4-speed Muncie transmission off of eBay that was all rebuilt. So now she has a nice engine in it, and it has a brand new 4-speed Muncie in it. When it came to restoring this thing, I decided to get a donor car, and that was a 1980 Formula Firebird. And most of the body parts are put on this car. I think the rear bumper, the front bumper, I do believe one of the fenders, both doors, and the hood are all from that car. We also put the interior from that car in here, and there was a few other small parts. There's a lot of tiny parts when you're restoring a car like this. So we tore this thing down to nothing. I didn't rotisserie it, and I didn't actually take the frame off of the body. But what I did do is I took the bushings out and we sanded and cleaned in between as we replaced each one, and we put it all back together, and it looked great. We did a Pour 15 on the whole bottom of it and the frame and the firewall. This car is not a show car. Maybe one day I'll build a show car, but this is just my nice little runner. It's my high school car. So I just wanted to do a lot of the things I always wanted to do in high school, and I had, huge dreams. I thought I was gonna make this car 1,000,000 horsepower. It's gonna have the cleanest engine bay. As an adult, trying to restore a car like this, you soon find out that if you want all those pie in the sky dreams, that you're just gonna have a rusty piece of crap sitting on the side of your house, and you're gonna have a stack of parts in your garage. So we dialed it back a little bit, and that helped out a lot. We ended up going with a 383 stroker, carbureted, but it's got a big cam, so it sounds super cool. Put a 4-speed Muncie transmission in it, and that's super awesome. Going from a manual, or going from an automatic to a manual, it's definitely one of the coolest things you can do to an old car like this. Unless you're going crazy restoration, if you got the money and you want to do your dual clutch with the paddle shifters or whatever like that, like, sure, that's awesome, but I don't have that kind of money. This is a normal guy build right here. We did a rack and pinion steering on it. We also did tubular A-arms, top and bottom. We went with the QA1s and a Wilwood braking system, 2 pistons in the front, single pistons in the back. So we did a lot to the suspension on this car. When I ordered all the parts from PST, I actually asked the person, do you have any other parts for a 1981 Firebird? And his answer was no. So needless to say, I have a bunch of extra parts because I bought, the entire front steering kit and a bunch of suspension parts that I actually replaced with the tubular A-arms and such. But we did end up with all new coil springs, all new leaf springs in the back, and I have one of the things I still yet to do on the car is I have traction bars to put on. Also relocated the battery from the front of the car to the trunk of the car and put in a electric fan system, electric fuel pump, and I redid all of the fuel lines and most of the brake lines on this car. Now my friend Anthony actually got a hold of me and wanted to build me an exhaust system for this car. And I got the exhaust system with the engine, but it came out of a Nova. So when I took that system down to my buddy Anthony, he chopped it up and he put my electric cutouts that I wanted put on there, and he built it all the way back. And then what we did is up above the rear differential, we actually cut the exhaust off after it was finished, and he made me a second set of tailpipes for it. The actual Trans Am dual chrome tailpipes. As you can see, it's not blue. Well, it's not boat flake blue. We have a body kit on it now. This is technically, it's just a Firebird. It has a Formula hood with a Trans Am body kit on it. And I also put the Trans Am smoked taillights in it. So it's just got the look that I like. And we also put the louvers on the back. I wanted to go with something that looks a little bit different than all of the louvers that you see these days. And once I put these ones on this car, my first impressions were that it seemed kind of cheesy. But then after seeing it the second time, I really like it. It looks a lot like a Matchbox car or something maybe too nice, but kind of has a Mad Max vibe to it. I really like the look of this car. All right, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification so you get notified every time I put out a video. And happy wrenching.